Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star episode number 349 based on novel. So let's start. On the mountains of Thunder Island in the virtual universe in the palace of Ganwu Country Master. He was alone, pacing about the gallery area with furrowed brows, deep in thought. He was indeed frustrated. He had not expected the quiet, peaceful days to be disrupted once again after such a long time. He had good relationships with the 6 universe knights that he was indebted to, so they did not press him. The peaceful years had led him to forget about the difficult times in the past. But today, he was really in a spot. Humph! Ganwu Country Master slapped the stone pillar beside him so forcefully that it shook, and some powered bits fell off. Ganwu, a voice resonated. Ganwu Country Master turned and saw a figure descending a distance away. After one look at who it was, he immediately walked over to extend his welcome with a smile. Luo Feng. It's been a long time since I visited your humble abode. Luo Feng smiled. You have not spent much time on cultivation, and yet you have made tremendous progress. Time is definitely of the essence. Ganwu Country Master grinned. Come. We shall take a seat over there. He led Luo Feng to an open sitting area not too far away. Servants were already laying out a spread of delectable food and fine wine. The two sat across one another. Young Hai is not getting himself into any sort of trouble lately, is he? Luo Feng asked. No. He is quite talented and also very hardworking, Ganwu Country Master said with a smile. If not for me forcefully keeping him under my reins, he would already have become undying. Luo Feng nodded. His son, Luo Hai, had also cultivated himself for hundreds of thousands of years. Furthermore, he had an abundant supply of resources that would make any undying emperor green with envy. Given Luo Feng's status, even if his son did not hold very high qualifications, he could still rely on the richness of resources to become undying. Besides, Luo Hai was indeed quite talented and had always considered his father, Luo Feng, his role model. Staying as a sector lord for a longer time will be good for him, too, Luo Feng said. It would be best if his law comprehension could reach emperor level before he achieved a breakthrough to becoming undying. Yes, that is my plan, too. Ganwu Country Master nodded his agreement. Ha ha. Young Hai is the only one that I am worried about in my family, said Luo Feng. Luckily, I have you as his master to help him all this while. Luo Feng expressed his gratitude. His older son, Luo Ping, and his wife, Xu were all at their family nest. His father, Luo Hongguo, and mother, Gongxin Lan, had indulged in virtual games for a good many years. Although unintentionally, they had unknowingly attained the 9th stage of domain level. If they were to put in a little more effort, they would have become sector lords. Of course, he could allow such uninhibited use of resources, but such use was limited to his parents, wife, sons, and brother. The other hundreds of millions of clansmen of the Luo family would have to follow the rules. Otherwise, even if there was an abundant supply of resources, it would not be enough to provide for countless clansmen if they consumed what they had at a crazy rate. There had to be some rule system within the clan. Counting only Luo Feng's closest kin, it would only be his youngest son, Luo Hai, out there wandering. The fact that he considered Luo Feng his role model worried him a bit. Luckily, Luo Hai had found his way to the Ganwu dojo, and thereafter, he had been taken under the wing of the dojo's founder, Ganwu Country Master, who accepted him as a special disciple. Luo Feng looked at Ganwu Country Master and thought about how indebted he was to him. When he had just made his appearance among the human race with the identity of merely a genius, Ganwu Country Master had taken good care of his family. As he became stronger and stronger, Ganwu Country Master provided him with even more help, and without reservations. He even went to save Luo Hai in person. Now, he was Luo Hai's teacher. From the very beginning, Ganwu Country Master had not asked Luo Feng for any help. On the contrary, he had been helping Luo Feng all this while. How could Luo Feng not take all these things to heart? That was why he had come here. Ganwu, I witnessed what happened in the inner city of Hong Alliance City, Luo Feng began. Ganwu Country Master's expression froze momentarily, but the next moment, he shook his head and let out a soft sigh. Greed. It was greed. He shook his head and sighed again. The very first time I was annihilated, I reversed time and space to resurrect myself. If, thereafter, I had not been greedy and wanted to recoup my loss, I would not have taken the risk to borrow a true treasure and would not have gone back into the original star. That moment of greed. The last annihilation. Because of these, I am indebted to my clan and owe them a true treasure and a series of treasures. That was the greatest loss I ever incurred. 3 falls would naturally bring such an outcome. Ganwu Country Master shook his head. If you want to go to the original star, you must be very careful. One careless mistake, and you will be annihilated. If you are annihilated, the price to pay would be exorbitant. If I was able to divide myself into other bodies, how advantageous that would be. Luo Feng nodded in agreement. The talent of dividing bodies meant that even if one body was annihilated, the main body could still recover over time at its own pace. There was no need to reverse time and space just to be resurrected. The price to pay was small. I need to think of a way to repay my debts, continued Ganwu Country Master. Some of my good friends have transferred a portion of their contributions to me, so I could at least return the true treasure that I owed. Yet being able to pay off that true treasure also meant that I would end up owing a few friends another favor. As for my debt to my clansmen accumulated until today, I can't tell for sure how many eras it will take me to finally repay everything. Greed, he said again. If it weren't for greed, after the first annihilation, I would not have taken another risk. I would have amassed an amount to completely recoup the loss I incurred from being annihilated. By then, it would not have been too late to move on to the next adventure. Ganwu Country Master shook his head. Luo Feng understood him. A clan was no charity. Its existence would help its own clansmen, but to do so, it needed the contributions from great beings of the clan. The privilege to enjoy benefits and the responsibility to contribute were interdependent. If Ganwu Country Master continued to owe his clan repeatedly in such a manner, the debt was bound to multiply. Luckily for him, his clan was not forcing him into a corner. How much do you owe? Luo Feng asked. Ganwu Country Master was stunned and looked at Luo Feng. He could roughly guess his intentions and was hence unable to suppress his agitated emotions. Could it be Luo Feng, known to be a mobile treasury, was going to help him? I am indebted to 6 universe knights, he said. The smallest amount is a few hundred treasure points, and the largest amount is 2,000 treasure points. All 6 debts put together equal about 1.6 true treasure points. As for my clan, I owe a total of 2.2 true treasure points. Luo Feng was secretly taken aback. Ouch! No wonder he could not pay off everything. 3.8 true treasure points was enough to exchange for 2 to 3 ordinary true treasures. Such an amount could be worth the entire fortune of a universe overlord. Ganwu Country Master had accumulated an alarming debt. Of course, Luo Feng did not really care. From killing Bark Mirror Emperor, he had obtained a true treasure armor. Then, in the land of extremis, when he killed Demon Sword Knight, who had the abilities of a universe overlord, he won himself another 2 true treasures, of which one was a heavenly sword that was a supreme true treasure. As of today, Luo Feng owned Tower Pearl, Star Map, Shawu Wings, 9 Tiger River, Golden King Armor, the Heavenly Sword and Armor of Demon Sword Knight, Top Tier True Treasure Series Beast God Armor, Pinnacle True Treasure Force Armor, the Senior True Treasure Battle Sword Cutting Pearl, and he would be getting the Supreme True Treasure Star Tower soon. The quantity was plenty, and their quality was high. Of course, the top 3 were God Beast Armor, Force Armor, and Star Tower. Out of the 3, Force Armor and Star Tower had both been bestowed to him by Sitting Mountain Guest. The Beast God Armor series had been won from Ancestor. These 3 all came from Universe Supreme Masters. Given Luo Feng's techniques, getting hold of true treasures was no difficulty at all. The strong would always be strong. That was the underlying theory behind his success. I will lend you 1.6 true treasure points, Luo Feng said. As for the amount you owe your people, you'll have to figure that out for yourself. 1.6 true treasure points. Ganwu Country Master felt every cell of his godly roaring with joy. His emotions ran high. Trillions of years' worth of debt owed to 6 good friends, all of whom were universe knights. It was so torturous. Especially with my Hua Knight constantly berating him. As a universe knight, he was very particular about pride. Yet in the face of all his good friends' denunciation, all he could do was tolerate it. But from this day on, all of these problems would be things of the past. Luo Feng, Ganwu Country Master began but said no more. He was thankful beyond words. At that moment, he received a notification package to tell him that he had received a contribution worth 1.6 true treasure points, and another package that was rushing him to return the contribution to his clan. Of course, Ganwu Country Master was not in a rush to return to his clan yet. After all, his clansmen would not be put through embarrassment. I can only help this much, the rest is up to you, Luo Feng said, and he stood up. This favor is really... Ha ha, Ganwu country master could not hold back his laughter. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting myself here. This stress that has been weighing on me for what feels like an eternity. Today, all of it has been lifted off me. What follows will be to gradually return to my clan. Luo Feng nodded. Ganwu country master had helped his family so much, and this would be a way of repaying his kindness. Helping him with 1.6 true treasure points should suffice. What he owed his own clan would serve as a form of reminder and pressure on Ganwu country master. I will make a move first. Luo Feng disappeared the very next moment. Ganwu country master stood unmoving, his eyes lit up, bright then brighter. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ganwu country master turned up his head and laughed. His joyful laughter resonating throughout the entire palace. Servants handpicked by Ganwu country master looked at one another. They had never heard him laugh so happily before. He was laughing without inhibition. Ganwu country master immediately transferred the contributions to his 6 good friends accordingly. The 6 universe knights contacted Ganwu one after the other. Ganwu, you actually returned the contributions? Where did you get them from? Ganwu, what I did in the Hong Alliance city earlier on was unintentional. I just had an anxiety attack. Where did you get the contributions from? If you are really at wit's end, do not just act recklessly. Taking a little more time is fine. I can still pull through. Ganwu country master was in a very good mood, so he chatted with every one of these 6 universe knights. All my stress, gone in a day. Ganwu country master felt relaxed, but at the same time, he sighed to himself. This Luo Feng's progress was unbelievable. Within the blink of an eye, he had transferred 1.6 true treasure points over to him. In the starry sky of the universe, amidst the darkness, there was an indistinct space whirlpool. The path to original star number 02818? Luo Feng stood in the middle of the starry sky with silver wings widely spread. The force armor that he donned appeared silver, on his back was his cutting pearl sword. Previously, I entered secretly, so no one knew that I, Luo Feng, has entered an original star, he said. There were a few knights within the Hong Alliance already discussing this, saying that I was purely making excuses when I said that would not lend anyone my true treasures because I wanted to go into the original star. Ha ha. Of course, I should now enter as my human form. Universe overlords of other races, the mobile treasury in human form is coming. Luo Feng took one big step across the starry sky and stepped into that gigantic space whirlpool. There, he was rapidly brought to the original star. Towering mountain ranges stretched across the land, and above the mountains was a great space whirlpool. A silver-winged and silver-armored man walked out of the whirlpool. He stood in the sky and looked around. All was silent. Based on the information I have, said Luo Feng, during the first few hundred of years when the original stars were open, it was more likely for valuables to be born, and the great beings who had suppressed their desire for an eternity were more excited. This led to more killings. However, after that time, almost all the great beings have gone into hiding. Luo Feng shook his wing and started to fly. He looked down at the ground. Although he had arrived at another original star, there weren't significant differences among the original stars. After flying for half an hour, he saw a purple object in a lake in a mountain valley below. He immediately dove, stood on the lake with his feet, and walked to the target. What is this? Luo Feng picked it up and examined it. It was a purple cloth that was about 30 square feet in size. Luo Feng penetrated it with a trace of his godly power, and the information contained in it flooded his mind. The treasure was called Imitation of Purple Sky. The invisible godly power could immediately enlarge the purple cloth to cover enemies instantly. Although it was only a treasure, it was the first time that Luo Feng had seen a treasure that looked like a cloth. He sensed that it was a top-tier spiritual force weapon. Imitation of Purple Sky? Luo Feng whispered. The name is bizarre. Could there be a more powerful valuable named Purple Sky? Why would a valuable born in the original stars is called Imitation of Purple Sky? The more Luo Feng thought about it, the more mysterious he found the universe to be. He already stood among the supreme beings in the universe, but there were still many secrets waiting for him to uncover. This treasure might be worth thousands of treasure points. I'm really lucky. Luo Feng smiled. This was what usually happened in the original stars, and many great beings were aware that there were numerous valuables on the original stars. However, there were usually many great beings gathering here as well. No matter how many valuables one obtained, once he was killed, he was doing others a favor. Only those with great power could roam the original stars. Like Luo Feng. Luo Feng didn't need to be afraid of universe overlords anymore. As for universe masters, they couldn't teleport themselves on the original stars. And if a universe master arrived, Luo Feng would have known about it through the virtual universe and hid himself away. Besides, with Luo Feng's power, universe master's control over space and time didn't intimidate him. Luo Feng strolled on the original star as if he were in the garden of his own home. He was waiting for an opportunity, and his remote ocean body was connected to the virtual universe and waiting for the update about Qianyang Night. Once he got it, Luo Feng would immediately race to where Qianyang Night was. 29 hours after Luo Feng arrived at the original star, a giant, two-headed being lay in the forest. His skin looked like purple crystals. The armor on his godly body was dimming, and he was lying there, waiting for an opportunity. He was an energy life form, a great being from the purple smelting race. The fact that he was walking alone on the original stars proved that he was a universe overlord. Energy life forms were one of the few races who were naturally immune to soul attacks, and the purple smelting race belonged to that category. They preferred to be closer to the ground. Many life forms loved to sit when they practiced, but great beings from the purple smelting race loved to lie down. Flourishing Light Horde leader lay with one of his head's eyes closed while the other had them open, fully alert. All his eyes suddenly opened, and he spotted a human shape flying across the sky between the leaves of the forest. It's a human? Flourishing Light Horde leader stood up. A silver wing? And that look, Flourishing Light Horde leader looked shocked. Isn't that the legendary talent of the human race, Luo Feng? That true treasure wing. How is it possible? Though that human killed Bark Mirror Emperor, he is, after all, only undying. He is, at most, as powerful as a secondary universe knight, and those who dare to show up on the original stars are at least senior universe knights. Flourishing Light Horde leader was thrilled to see Luo Feng. After all, Purple Smelting Race was one of the numerous races that belonged to the Northern Territory Alliance, and Bark Mirror Emperor, who had been killed by Luo Feng, was from the Northern Territory Alliance. The great beings from the Northern Territory Alliance surely knew about Luo Feng. Additionally, the great beings who had inside information had already extrapolated that this peerless genius had at least 6 true treasures. A soul-type true treasure, a spiritual force weapon true treasure, a wing true treasure, and an armor true treasure. Plus, he had at least 2 true treasures from the ancestral god school. 6 true treasures were much more than all that many universe overlords had. Especially soul-type true treasures, which were ardently desired by universe overlords. They all perceived Luo Feng to be weak, as he was only undying. He was like a human-shaped, moving vault full of valuables available for the taking. There were even discussions within the Northern Territory Alliance that if Luo Feng entered original stars, it would be like giving true treasures away to those lucky great beings of other races. However, all the races had assumed that Luo Feng wouldn't be stupid enough to enter the original stars. Based on the information gathered, Luo Feng hadn't gone to the original stars in the past 20,000 years. He's here? And I haven't got any news? Am I the first one to find him? Both the Flourishing Light Horde leader heads were raised up and looked at Luo Feng as he flew. He's a peerless genius in the human race. I didn't think he'd be stupid enough to put himself in danger. He was both exhilarated and wary. Luo Feng surely had something to save himself. However, after hesitating for 3 seconds, Flourishing Light Horde leader reached a conclusion. Humph. He's only undying. Even if he has a trump card to save himself, can that kill me? Only universe masters are able to do that. It's impossible for him to hide a universe master in his world ring. Flourishing Light Horde leader smirked. I don't need to worry about what he has. He can't threaten my life. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Thought Flourishing Light Horde leader. A human-shaped moving vault full of valuables. I can get at least 6 true treasures if I kill him, and I can exchange one of his true treasures for a senior true treasure armor. The soul-type true treasure Luo Feng had was useless to him, as he was a life form from Purple Smelting Race, but he could still exchange it for something he desired. It's an opportunity one can't miss. If I do, I'll regret it for billions of years. The eyes on Flourishing Light Horde leader glinted fiercely. He started to speed up in Silence Eye the forest. As for Luo Feng, he was flying in the sky at a moderate speed and looking down at the ground, and Flourishing Light Horde Leader caught up with Luo Feng immediately. Luo Feng didn't notice Flourishing Light Horde Leader at the beginning, but Luo Feng saw him when he flew out of the forest. Human! Flourishing Light Horde Leader surged, and his purple crystal skin was glowing. Both of his heads turned to face Luo Feng, and his eyes glared at him. Luo Feng looked down and frowned. Flourishing Light Horde Leader from the Northern Territory Alliance? Luo Feng immediately identified him and took out his cutting pearl sword. Die? Flourishing Light Horde Leader shouted. All 6 arms of Flourishing Light Horde Leader reached out, glowing with a cold light, and when they approached each other, their surroundings were trapped in Time Law domain, which also affected Luo Feng. Flourishing Light Horde Leader took the chance and attacked him. He puts all his efforts into fighting me, the legendary undying fighter, Luo Feng thought. He used Law domain first, after which he is now going to start attacking me. No wonder he's a universe overlord. The sky started to glimmer as if stars were shining, but all the lights looked aggressive. It was as if they all sought to kill Luo Feng directly. Luo Feng still held his cutting pearl sword still after seeing this. Flourishing Light Horde Leader's technique, Flourishing Light World? Luo Feng nodded. I'll use you to test the training I've had in the past 180 million years. Luo Feng, who had already burned his godly power, started to move the sword in his hands. Meanwhile, engravings showed up on the blade. The engravings were delicate, elegant, and mesmerizing. When Luo Feng waved the sword, gold and space merge law were triggered. You dared to fight back, said Flourishing Light Horde Leader. Even if you have an ordinary true treasure armor, you'll die under this attack. And then, Flourishing Light Horde Leader was terrified. What's that? He gasped. A gleaming, golden light? Cold. Fierce. It slashed through all the flourishing lights, and the technique of Flourishing Light Horde Leader was shattered, smashed like an ant. The golden light hit Flourishing Light Horde Leader's armor, and the power was so strong that the ordinary true treasure armor could only weaken half the power from the attack. The rest of the attacking power was all taken by Flourishing Light Horde Leader's body. Howl! A roaring sound from afar blasted the ears of Flourishing Light Horde Leader. Flourishing Light Horde Leader still floated in the sky. And then, just like that, his godly body was annihilated and disappeared into thin air. Only his black armor and 6 lights were left. Luo Feng stood in the sky and smiled. Under the control of his godly power, the black armor that was suspended in midair and the 6 hovering lights made a turn and flew toward Luo Feng. An ordinary true treasure armor, said Luo Feng. 6 ordinary true treasures weapons should be considered as a series. It has a value that is comparable to a senior true treasure weapon. Luo Feng stored the true treasures and then summoned a world ring to him from afar. This world ring had fallen to the floor immediately after Flourishing Light Horde Leader was annihilated. Upon checking its contents, Luo Feng only found a dozen or more treasures and some other things. Their accumulated value was not even the value of an ordinary true treasure. After killing Flourishing Light Horde Leader, Luo Feng gathered the loot from his victory. His human godly body was set ablaze to display his most powerful trump card and was hence greatly consumed. However, there was his remote ocean body to supplement whatever was lacking. Thus, he was able to maintain a pinnacle condition. The moment Luo Feng spread his wings, he transformed into a beam of light and took off. His speed was neither too fast nor too slow, he maintained his flying speed near to the speed of light. His surroundings were quiet. There was no movement, no traces. No one would be able to tell that a universe overlord had just annihilated been at that very spot just moments before. The Northern Territory Alliance had an immensely large territory under its control, and within the starry sky where the purple smelting race lived in, there was a life planet that was dark red all over. The palace of Flourishing Light Horde Leader could be found on that planet. The palace was not big, but it was considered to be one of the sacred grounds of the purple smelting race. The purple smelting race had a total of 6 existing universe overlords. Universe overlords were by far the strongest beings within the race, which was why the entire race was divided into 6 different territories, each managed and cultivated by these 6 universe overlords. From within the palace, several disciples and servants bowed in worship as they watched a faraway figure approaching. It was the body that Flourishing Light Horde Leader had left behind before he made his way to the original star. This body was weak. But it was, after all, Flourishing Light Horde Leader's consciousness, so it could still provide guidance to disciples and handle certain matters without a hitch. Flourishing Light Horde leader revealed a shocked expression. Suddenly, he was annihilated and dissipated into thin air. Horde leader. Teacher. 3 disciples and a bunch of personal servants who were waiting in the distance were in great shock. The area surrounding this planet was in a sealed space, so even Flourishing Light Horde leader could not teleport and leave the planet. So how did his body suddenly disappear? Don't worry, there must be some very important matters that needed teacher's undivided attention, so he has retracted his godly consciousness. Then, of course, the body will disappear. Let's take a look at the tokens teacher gave us. Let's take a look at the tokens. The 3 disciples immediately took out the tokens. The tokens were all parts of a collection of Flourishing Light Horde leaders' belongings. They were all items that had his life imprint. They were valuables that recognized their owners. Once these items were crushed, Flourishing Light Horde leader would sense the urgency and go to his disciples' rescue. The token has become an object without an owner. A high-pitched voice suddenly shouted from among the disciples. 2 other voices corresponded with the same comment, adding to the bleak and grim atmosphere. An object without a master. Mine too. An object without a master. The 3 disciples of the purple smelting race looked at one another, eyes filled with fear and uneasiness. They had no doubts about what this situation meant. For an object that recognizes its master, there were only 2 ways to reverse this recognition. One was for the master to personally remove his life imprint on the object, and the other was for the master to be killed. Since Flourishing Light Horde leader was not present, there was no way he could have personally removed his life imprints. Then the answer was undoubtedly that Flourishing Light Horde leader had been annihilated. Hurry up. We have to quickly notify the other Horde leaders. Quick. Immediately. Notify the higher-ups. 6 universe overlords oversaw the entire purple smelting race. If one got annihilated, it would be equivalent to the collapse of one of the race's pillars of support. This, to the purple smelting race, was a very scary blow. A short while later, 3 universe overlords of the purple smelting race who had not entered the original star came rushing over. First and foremost, they asked Flourishing Light Horde leaders' disciples questions about what happened. Then they dismissed all the disciples and servants. In the palace, the 3 universe overlords who took the form of purple crystal-skinned, 2-headed life forms stood in their designated spots. The atmosphere was suffocating. Flourishing Light was annihilated. Who could kill Flourishing Light? And to think he did not even have the chance to ask for help. Flourishing Light owns an ordinary true treasure armor, and his attack techniques were strong. To kill him, could it have been a universe master? Even if it wasn't a universe master, it must be one of the most powerful universe overlords. The 3 of them fell in silence. Flourishing Light Horde leader, Luo Feng Knight, Bei Feng Knight, and Qi Blood Palace leader were all considered normal universe overlords. There were some other powerful ones. For instance, there were special life forms of the universe overlord level with life genes level of 8,000 or 9,000 times. Their godly powers were purer those of normal universe overlords by 100 times. When launching attacks, their powers would be 100 times stronger, too. Furthermore, these powerful universe overlords would be obtaining even stronger true treasures. Their combat powers would certainly be extremely strong. With godly bodies that were massive in size, even if they were to go head-on with universe masters, they would be able to hold out for a long time. Going into the original star, there is always a risk of being killed. We had better banish that thought. If someone is able to defeat Flourishing Light, we, the purple smelting race, really cannot afford to offend them. The 3 universe overlords nodded in unison. We have to enlist help from the Northern Territory Alliance to resurrect Flourishing Light. Flourishing Light is a universe overlord. His resurrection is only possible at the hands of Main Master of Alliance. But Main Master's temperament is notorious. I'm afraid we have to wait for his mood to brighten up before we can ask him to help resurrect Flourishing Light. Elementary Universe Knights, Secondary Universe Knights, Senior Universe Knights, once they were annihilated, it would usually not take too long for them to be resurrected. If there was a delay, it would, at most, be 1,000 to 10,000 years. But in the case of universe overlords, things were not that simple. In the whole of the Northern Territory Alliance, only Main Master of Alliance had the ability to resurrect a universe overlord. Other universe masters were unable to do so. Even if the Main Master of Alliance was caught up in some other matters for billions of years, no one would dare make a single utterance. Heck, let's just submit our application to the Alliance. Then we will wait patiently. Agreed. When flourishing light comes back, we will know how he was annihilated. The original star was closing up on the land of origin of the universe. Cruising the sky of the original star, the feeling was wonderful. Luo Feng smiled while on the move, reminiscing about the battle earlier on. My first time going all out in a battle, the power is massive. Luo Feng was extremely satisfied with his power. It is unquestionably an ultimate technique of a universe master. The amount of godly power it consumes is alarming. If I did not have remote ocean body consistently supplementing me with energy, I think just that one stance alone would be enough to lose half of my godly body. Previously, in the Beast God sector, when Luo Feng and Ancestor were engaged in combat, he did not have to burn his godly body to become an undying body. When his body was not set ablaze, no matter how long he had to toil through a battle, he would not be consuming much of his godly power. However, in the battle of life and death, Luo Feng had to burn his godly body. Like Chi Blood Palace leader and Demon Sword Knight, when displaying their ultimate skills, they, too, would consume much of their godly bodies. And Luo Feng's ultimate technique of a universe master, Golden Light, was on a much higher level compared to those of Chi Blood Palace leader and Demon Sword Knight. Luo Feng's consumption of energy was unintentional, but after the Golden Light absorbed his godly power, it consumed more than half his godly body. Of course, remote ocean body was rapidly supplementing him with what was lost. What a large consumption! The force was insanely strong. Too strong, said Luo Feng. I could feel his ordinary true treasure armor becoming helplessly weak under my blade. If I were to just increase the strength of my attack by one level, I think I would have destroyed that true treasure. Luo Feng analyzed the situation himself. 9,800 times of the life gene's level, 100 times of godly power amplification. Luo Feng's godly body was not inferior to that of a general universe overlord. Even for the one and only special life forms, such as the world tree in the ancestral god secret region and the cold whale, they might be universe overlords, but their battling powers were comparable to those of universe masters. And their godly powers were purer than Luo Feng's by just 2 levels. But Luo Feng's ultimate technique of a universe master was stronger than those of the world tree and cold whale by 2 levels. The advantages he had in terms of his secret technique made up for the lack of godly power. The moment Luo Feng displayed his ultimate technique of a universe master, he would be comparable to the powerful special life forms of universe overlords. His true treasure armor was simply substandard, weakened to only half his power. Of course his godly body would be annihilated. If he had a senior true treasure armor, I guess, I might only have been able to injure him. To kill him, I would have needed a few more strikes. This exemplified the importance of armor. Even for universe masters, not many could achieve attacks that would bring force armor to its limit. 180 million years of cultivation has indeed brought me great success. Luo Feng nodded with satisfaction. He was highly accomplished in the studies of pictures of secret engravings, making the mastering of space laws a breeze. Although it had only been a few days since he left the Beast God sector, he already comprehended the final space law, which was none other than the mysterious and complex strangulation. Now, all he needed to do was combine 3 space laws, namely, teleportation, space sealing, and strangulation, into one. Then he would become a universe master. However, the final stage posed a small challenge to Luo Feng. Just like how some great beings were highly accomplished in space laws, yet were stuck in the final stage of the gold laws, Luo Feng was highly successful until now. He was slightly affected at his current stage. Just like Sitting Mountain Guest had said, a breakthrough could happen anytime, regardless of how slow he was. 1,000 years would be more than enough to become a universe master. When I become a universe overlord, my godly body will be comparable to powerful special life forms like World Tree and Cold Whale. I will be even stronger in my techniques. By then, I will have to go all out in becoming a universe master. Luo Feng was secretly looking forward to this. By then, I will be able to make use of Star Tower readily. Luo Feng smiled, then continued flying. He was waiting. Waiting for the next great being like Flourishing Light Horde leader to make a move against him. Bring it on. I am the mobile treasury. Luo Feng smirked. In one of the hilly valleys amidst the deserted plains, 3 senior universe knights from the Thorn Ring Alliance were hiding. They were silently waiting for energy waves. Among them, Chi Knight was appalled when he raised his head to look up at the sky. He immediately transmitted what he found aloud. Look, look. That is the human form of Luo Feng. Luo Feng? Are you referring to the human fellow who is always so lucky? The other two universe knights looked up with a jerk. The three looked very carefully and tried to make out who the figure was. Silver armor, silver wings, and a black-haired human form. It is him. It's the human form of Luo Feng. It's him. He has at least 6 true treasures on him. And that is definitely a soul-type true treasure, and even possibly a flying palace-type true treasure. He dares to come to the original star. This extraordinary genius really thinks he's invincible? Such arrogance. Arrogance is good. He is a mobile treasury in human form. But this human form of Luo Feng might have a strong backing. What backing? Even if there is a universe overlord in the word ring protecting him in secret, what can he do? The weeds around them kept them hidden from view. As they looked up at the figure flying across the sky, all three felt their hearts burning. The shortest yet sturdiest four-hoofed being transmitted his thoughts as the other two universe knights immediately lent him their undivided attention. We have to succeed. Our powers put together will be far stronger than his. Once he escapes, he will take off at a speed near light speed. Then we will not be able to catch up anymore. I have a plan, and I will make it a point to prevent him from escaping. This video will end here.